When Purcell was asked about the chaos on Tuesday, she said voters could have avoided lines by voting early.
Who's to blame for these long lines?
Well, the voters for getting in line, maybe us for not having enough polling places, or as many as we usually have.
Now, are you saying voters should have sent in ballots by mail because you're saying they're partly to blame for standing in line?
Well, no, they're not to blame for standing in line, but they went to the polling places. They could have voted early, or, you know, that was their option in this instance.
Purcell has since clarified that high turnout is a good thing and taken responsibility for the decision to slash the number of polling locations.
We screwed up. I screwed up. It's my decision that I took to the board, but it's my decision. And, you know, the board looks at me as the expert in this field. Been here a long time, so obviously they're going to listen to me.
The 7-term county recorder has said she will not be resigning. And as of today, 2 people filed to challenge her in November. I spoke with Helen Purcell and asked her why she recommended shutting down 70% of Maricopa's polling sites.
Well, we looked at a couple of issues since the last presidential election, where we had a contested presidential election, which was 2008. And we have had a tremendous influx of people who wanted to vote by mail in our early ballot system.
But you ended up in a situation, just so the sort of facts here are clear, you had 21,000 people per polling site. The surrounding counties near you had ratios of 2,300, 1,200, 2,800, 2,500. I mean, you had 10 times fewer polling sites per voter than anyone around you. That just seems wildly off base for what kind of service you had to provide.
As I said, we looked at all the factors, and did we make a mistake in this? Yes, we did. And I take responsibility for that and apologize to the voters.
It just seems like an error of a very large proportion.
And I agree with you that it was.
So here's the other question I think folks have. Your county is part of Arizona. Arizona was covered under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. You had to go through a process called pre-clearance, the Department of Justice, in order to make any kind of dramatic changes. Some of the changes you've made...
Any changes.
Any changes. Some of the changes you've made in the past have been, of course, cleared by the Justice Department back when they were doing that. That no longer is the case, thanks to a 2013 finding of the Supreme Court. But had you, if the pre-clearance process still existed today, which it no longer does thanks to the Supreme Court, and you were going to reduce your polling places as dramatically as you did, you would have had to get the Department of Justice to sign off on that. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And in this case, they didn't have to. You could just do whatever you wanted.
That's correct.
And what ended up happening was that you had people waiting online for 5 hours in what was a pretty big screw-up.
Yes, it was. And I admit to that.
So can you understand why...
I didn't anticipate beforehand what was going to happen. And I'm very sorry for that. I made a mistake, and I have said that.
Can you commit to or guarantee that the ratio of voters to polling places is going to be something that looks more in line with, say, Pima County in the range of 2,300 voters per polling place?
In the November election, we will have 724 polling places.
And how many did you have the other day?
We had 60.
You had 60, you're going to have 70, so you're going to have 10 times as many.
That's correct. That is our regular complement. Under this election, we could only have no more than half of our normal polling places by law.
All right. Helen Purcell, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. I really do.
You're welcome.